want to let us know once you're recording.
Ready to go. We are recording.
Okay, hello everyone. I have 6:09 p.m. July 1st, 2020, and I would like to call the special meeting of the Charter Review Commission to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order and TAC 29, TAC 20, members of the Charter Review Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the Executive Order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in Charter Review Commission Executive Conference Room 103. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to e-comment at www.chulavistaca.gov/boards. Excuse me. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments they may have received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-576-5366, and City Attorney's Office staff will assist you. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Melissa, you're on mute.
Commissioner Budding?
Here.
Commissioner Hopita?
Here.
Commissioner McDonald? Here. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Ross? Commissioner Ross?
Commissioner Ross, you're on mute.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it
Commissioner-
works now?
Yes.
If you don't mute it by itself.
Commissioner Schofield?
Okay, here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Felber is absent. Thank you.
Okay, next up is public comments. Public comments is the section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. 2 minutes are now up. Did we receive any comment? Mute.
Sorry, no comments received.
All right, I tried to send one just as a test, so I goofed up somewhere. I'll try again later. Okay. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the June 10th, 2020 meeting minutes. I'll open the floor to the rest of the commissioners for any comments. If no comments, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
I'll second. How's that? Okay, we need another comment period here, I believe. So another 2 minutes for a comment period for folks to submit any comments with regards to the minutes. Any comments received?
Marissa, you're on mute, but just for the record, I did submit a test comment, so you did get one emailed. It was a test comment. I just wanted to ensure that it went through.
It actually went through and I was trying to open it, but other than that, no comments.
Okay, I just saw the word test down below. Okay, but ask now you, Marissa, to call a roll call on the motion and the second to approve the minutes.
I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schofield.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2 on our agenda tonight. The next item is consideration, discussion, and potential action on draft charter amendment language for recommendation to the City Council in response to its referral to analyze and draft for City Council consideration a charter amendment that would allow Chula Vista residents, not just qualified electors, to serve on city boards and commissions. Boy, that's a mouthful. Is there a presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair, or excuse me, Vice Chair O'Donnell. You stepped right into the role, threw me there. You have in front of you, hopefully, or were provided as of Friday, the draft language. I worked with the Commissioners Subcommittee, which consisted of Commissioners Hopita, Betting, and McDonald. And they provided some excellent input. And so what you see before you is what we came up with. And essentially it changes the qualified elector requirement from that to resident, and refers to the elections code for definition of that term. The idea there is that the subcommittee wanted to have some sort of definition tied to it, and we, rather than having a static definition, decided to refer to the elections code, since there's a whole body of law that informs the definition that's contained in there that can be used on a go-forward basis. We also retained the 18 years of age requirement, but allowed the exception, which has been the city's past practice and procedure, is to allow youth commissioners on the youth commission under 18. Also retained the ability to allow non-resident members on certain boards and commissions as allowed by ordinance, with a 4/5 vote requirement. That's a little different than what was in there before. As we talked about, it had the regional board requirement. That still could be the requirement if that's what city council decides to do by ordinance. But because that original basis for that regional board has evolved and changed over the years, and that Chula Vista Nature Center board doesn't even exist anymore, the thought there is to allow the council some more latitude in how it would use that ability to appoint non-resident board and commission members. And then we allowed the districting commission member exception to the rule, that they do have to be registered voters, and referred to the existing charter provision that requires it. So those are the changes in 602D and C, and I'll open it up for your discussion.
Robert?
Yes, for the discussions that we had at these meetings, were any other options going to be sent to the council for their consideration also?
The motion at the last meeting was to prepare draft language that would replace the qualified elector requirement with the resident requirement. So this is what the commission voted to take forward to council if approved. So no, we don't have other options that we're presenting.
So and the other options that Brian brought forward would not be sent to the council for consideration.
I don't believe we voted on any others, Robert. That's the reason.
Okay.
Any other comments, folks? Okay, once again, I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before commission deliberations. Okay, commenting period for this item is now closed. I didn't see any comments. Were there comments? Okay, I have a question for probably Carrie or Tyshar. What is the password they're asking for? Which password? When I want to make it. Okay.
On the this is Carrie. On the e-comments, you do have to create an account. So it's probably asking for your account password.
Gotcha.
If you
Okay.
haven't made an account yet, you can make a new one.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. So no comments. Commissioners, any further comments or questions? Okay, I'll ask the secretary to conduct a roll call. Oh, first, I'm sorry, we need a
We
motion.
need a motion.
Yes, we need a motion for this item to pass.
I move that this item is accepted as is.
Second.
I second.
Thank you, Edgar. Okay. Now, if we could please have a roll call for that.
Sure, I will now request each member.
Excuse me. Can I have I'm sorry, before you go ahead, can I just clarify on the motion for acceptance is as far as presentation to the council, should I report out as just accepted by the commission, or did the commission want to make a recommendation or file a report with the council when it goes forward? Or do you want me to just report in the staff report that it was approved as or accepted by the commission?
I think a second commission is fine, but I'll defer to anyone else.
I agree with Tom.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, or is that, we don't need the roll call now?
Yes, okay, so I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
No.
Commissioner Schofield.
Aye.
Okay, next item on our agenda is consideration, discussion, and potential action on draft charter amendments proposed by city staff. Is there another presentation for this?
There is. Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. This is, we have talked briefly about this previously when we talked about taking the proposed amendments forward. And these are some proposed amendments that staff has submitted and that we would like to take to the council. Several of them we have already spoken about, or just kind of generally with the commission. I know one that Commissioner Ross has been advocating for is the change, as an example, the change from general and special election to change that nomenclature to primary and general. So we can go through these. Hopefully you have received the attachment for this item. Marisa also has, I believe, content she's going to share. And we can just walk through these. And if you have any questions along the way as we go, I'd be happy to discuss them further with you. So the first ones are in section, I think you're on item 2, Marisa. Can we go to item 3? Thank you. And moving down to, we're in section 300.
This is the suspension from elected office, 303.5.
We're not quite there yet.
Sorry.
There are some changes before that. And these in this section are primarily related to cleanups after the just after we went to districting elections and made those charter amendments. Some of those have now become obsolete because some of those related solely to the transition period. So these primarily relate to that, as well as to the change from primary to general nomenclature. So If we're in 300, yes. So the first change here is checking on the registered voter status. And that will be done rather than at the time of filing the nomination papers, it will be at the time the papers are issued to the candidate. And that was a change requested by our clerk, and it's consistent with the practice and what the elections code requires. Elections for the office of mayor shall be held in the same manner as described in section 300A3 below. That's already in the charter. It's just been moved to this section because the section it's currently in is being deleted as obsolete now. Same change in 2 as far as changing from filing to when issued. The next section 3 is changing from general to primary election. And then clarifying that the runoff election in November is the general, now referred to as the general municipal election. So general and primary are those sections. And then moving down. And this is a clarification. I'm at the top of page 4 here. In order to participate as a write-in candidate in an election, the write-in candidate must qualify to run in the primary municipal election. So
what does that mean?
Yeah, the idea here is, as you may recall, one of the recent charter amendments was to require that which nomenclature to use, but for the first, what has been traditionally the June election, historically, it was if someone got more than 50%, they were elected outright in that primary election. It was changed a few years back to require a mandatory runoff in November. And then an issue had come up as to whether a candidate could run as a write-in candidate after June. And the answer to that was they couldn't. And that's because in order to get to June, the whole point was you have to run in June. Those two get the privilege of running off in November. So this is just clarifying that it's not a change, it's just a clarification that we're adding.
So again, they can't run in the November unless they ran in the June?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Where'd you go? And then the next section is the primary and general language again. Section 4 is that has become obsolete because it refers to the 2016, 2014 phase in of the district elections. So we're deleting that in its entirety. Section B is related to the term of office. It's still 4 years. It always has been. Just some issues come up sometimes with respect to when we get the official election results from the county and when they go to our council for swearing in. So the idea and what we always try to do is at the very next Tuesday council meeting after we get those election results, they're sworn in. So as soon as possible. But the way it has been worded with the first Tuesday in December, it doesn't always correlate with that. So we made some tweaks here just to say that the member's term runs from the time they take the oath of office until the successor takes the oath of office, and that will happen at as soon as possible after receiving those official results. Okay, move down. This is again relating to the transition period, so not relevant anymore, and that's E. G is related to what happens if a candidate dies. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Section F.
Yes.
It says shall be determined in accordance with section 303.c.2.
Okay.
They changed that should be 303.c without the .2. You might want to look into that.
Okay, I'm still showing it as 2, Robert, even with the changes.
Say, please.
I'm still showing it as 303C2.
Yeah, should it be 303C2 or 303C? C has sections 1, 2, and 3 based on when the vacancy occurs, I believe. And should it be just for the 303.C or specifically for the 2?
We can broaden it. I'm good with that. 300.
The 303.C.2, I think the one that refers to the more than a year, less than, but the part above says vacancy, just vacancies in general. So I think for vacancies in general, it might be better just to have 303.C, which with all of the 1 year, the 1 to 2 years, and the more than 2 years.
That
Okay,
makes
I
sense.
noted that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. H is the change from special to just call it a runoff election.
There's a possible change in section G.
In G?
Yeah, I think just a mistyping, but for all of the other parts, you're eliminating special runoff election, and you forgot to eliminate it here. About halfway down, 3/4.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Okay. Okay, moving down. And this again is cleanup. This talked about the first commission. We're under the districting commission provisions now. So that has changed and we're now onto the regular schedule, 10-year schedule. We were doing it midterm before, as you may recall. And it's now going to be a redistricting versus a districting plan. And then we added the last sentence in that section. The council may amend this timeline by ordinance in accordance with state statutory deadlines. And that's because since we made these amendments, the state has actually come up with its own timeline. And so we wanted to give the city council the flexibility to follow those if it determined it was appropriate. And in fact, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but since the June election has now been moved to March, the timeline that we had in here is actually going to be tweaked with this selection of districting commission members this year anyway. So anyway, that's what that is. Moving down, let's see, D. We made a change there to be more inclusive from men and women to persons, and then adding in gender still as a factor because that is legally something we should be considering is the makeup of the community. So that was the basis for that change. Yes.
That change from women and men to persons. There's also a possible change in the city attorney part also that hasn't been changed. So when you reach that, make a note to look for that.
Okay, thank you.
There's a part there that says, I think, men and women.
Okay, thank
Similar
you.
To what's here.
Got it. The deletion of section 5 again relates to it's outdated due to the transition being completed. Moving down, section K was deleted in its entirety as it did relate to the transition period. Moving on to section 303. which talks about vacancies. That first line out there is because what this says is that the city council expresses it in its official minutes contemporaneously with such absence or sooner. But really what happens is if a member is absent, it's going to be expressed in the minutes of the next meeting. So that was just a little bit too restrictive there. So we're lining that out to be consistent with our practice. Moving down to C2, let's see, notwithstanding. So this is one that the commission has already approved. It relates to the ability to hold wholly by mail ballots. So that was one that the commission already approved in January. Yes?
For section C there, down part 1, third paragraph down.
Yes.
I believe that the last sentence there is basically just repeats what was said earlier.
That's right.
It does look duplicative. And as I sit here, I can't think of a reason why it's still included. So I'll make a note on that. Thank you. Okay, moving down to subsection 2A. Oh. Marisa, were you able to upload the newer version? No. Okay. There are a couple of changes that came through from staff after this was circulated. So one of them is in this section 2A, where it says in the special election, the voters in a district for which a vacancy shall be filled shall be entitled to vote for, and we're adding in to nominate and vote for one candidate from the district. And this is in 2 places. And the basis for this is right now it says that you have to be in a district to vote for a candidate in that district. This change will clarify that also in order to nominate, so to sign, nomination paper for a candidate, you also have to be a resident of that district. So you can't participate in nominating a representative from a different district, which has been, again, consistent with our practice and is consistent with the elections code. But since we transferred to district elections, it didn't make it into that change. So we wanted to clarify that now. Okay, moving down to.
Wait, question again. Sorry about this.
I'm sorry.
There's a part there that says if a candidate receives the majority of the votes cast in the election. There's a majority here, and in other sections of the charter, they just say the most votes, the highest total. Is there a reason why here it says specifically majority, and for the primary, for example, they just, for the other elections, they basically say just highest number of votes?
The only reason is because they were adopted at different times and different authors. But I think that's a good point. We can make them consistent.
Yeah, that's what I noticed when I read through it. In parts of the section, it says the most votes, and in other parts it says the majority. And you might want to make it one or the other.
I agree. That's a good catch. Thank you.
Well, I see this particular issue we're talking about is special election, so I can see if it's a special election and somebody wants to get represented right away, if they get a majority in that special election, then why have a runoff election? But again, that might be the reason.
Thank you, Commissioner Betting. I think the point, if I understood Commissioner Ross, was not specifically related to the runoff, but just to the nomenclature of majority versus highest number of votes in an election. Is that correct, Commissioner Ross?
There's nothing wrong with this, but you have this in one section and highest number of votes in another section. You might want different ones, but has it been thought through with your reason why it's done differently in different parts? That's my basic comment.
Yeah, and I was just saying that there might be a reason for the difference relative to a special election.
That's possible, but has it been thought through? Has it been discussed why in certain sections you might want majority and in other sections might want the largest number of votes?
Right. I do believe it's, well, I'll look at it. I thank you.
Right.
I'll make sure we get consistency or use it as appropriately where needed. Okay, so moving down to 2A is another where we're adding in nominate and vote for candidate from your district. 2B is the next change. And this is the same type of change we talked about before regarding the writing candidates. And then section 6 is the wholly by mail. These are section 6 and then going on to 303.5. These are changes that you've already approved back in January. In taking this forward to the council, with respect to 303.5, I was going to make a note, and we talked about this during the commission meetings, a couple of things that I think are necessary or important to have along with this change, but that we weren't going to put in the charter because we wanted to have some flexibility to craft them and update them appropriately as necessary. And one is an appeal right once that decision is made. And the other is where we say that that the council can appoint someone to fulfill the office during the suspension. I was going to recommend when it goes to council that ordinances be adopted to specifically deal with those issues and how those would be done. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So that was the note there. And then moving on, 304A, we just deleted that because it's duplicative and already addressed in section 300 and wanted to have it just in one place so we didn't have inconsistency. Same with A, we're just eliminating duplicity there. Going down to subsection C, deputy mayor, just changing the nomenclature consistent with what we currently call that position rather than pro tem. 305, I just changed councilmen to council members. 308 regarding place of meetings. We ran into some issues here when we had to shut down City Hall not too long ago on where we would hold the meetings, because right now it says that they have to be in a conference room in the Civic Center. So we added some flexibility on holding it elsewhere if for some reason those facilities are unavailable. And then we added in the next paragraph, I'm on 308. In the next paragraph, where it says that you can hold them in other suitable places for public assembly within the city of Chula Vista or contiguous or areas contiguous thereto. We had some questions arise on exactly what that meant. So we changed it to City of Chula Vista or contiguous cities within the county. And then on the next or the last paragraph there, at such special meetings. So this currently does not allow the city council to pass ordinances or resolutions at special meetings, which causes some difficulties because we do have special meetings. It might be that we're starting a meeting at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. That's a special meeting. So it really ties the council's hands if they can't do their business at those types of meetings. So we may actually be eliminating this paragraph in its entirety, or at least softening it a little bit. So that's what's happening there, just to allow that flexibility. And then 311A. This is, right now we require the city clerk to read the titles of resolutions and ordinances before the city council votes on them. It is rare. I don't know of any other cities that require that, and ours actually requires the full reading of the item unless that is waived by motion of the council, and then just the title. So we actually are looking to change that and even make a larger change than is noted there to allow the council to vote without her having to read all of the titles and information there. So that's what that change is. Excuse me, I just need to plug my machine in before I die here. Okay, I'm back. Going on to 312. This, and you'll see a couple more of these. 312B. This is a new change that came in since it was circulated, but it talks about publication of ordinances and it talks about newspapers. So really this requirement is outdated. So what we would like to do is keep that first sentence that requires publication within 15 days, but then allow the city council by ordinance to determine what that publication is going to be. Because for the most part, the law has changed to allow publication on our website, and newspapers are not, for most people, are not the primary source of information. So we didn't want to be tied to that being where the publication takes place, but to allow us to adapt with the times and publish in the appropriate places. So that's that. Section 403 is, again, just updating the nomenclature for that position to be consistent with what we currently call our assistant city manager. 503. We have qualifications of city attorney. So you've already approved this change, 503D, which is requiring residency for the city attorney. And then in 503E, we've made the same change regarding the term and the oath of office that we made for the city council members that we discussed earlier. 503G is a change that you previously approved in January.
Joe?
Yep.
That part, what is section D, qualifications of city attorney?
Yes.
That's the part that has the he or she in it.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
512 is the oath of office.
Wait a second, Jill.
Yep.
Section F. It
502?
says that the vacancy has to be filled within 60 days. Why is that, different from the 45 days of the council?
Are you in 502F?
Is it 502? Hold on, it's
Yes.
I believe so. It's city attorney.
503F, yeah. Vacancy filling of. That's filled in 60 days, and for the city council is 45. Is there a reason why there are two different dates?
The short answer is because this section 503 was submitted by Citizens Initiative, so we didn't have control over how it was crafted.
Oh, so it can't be changed?
No, I'm not saying that, but when it was put on for on the ballot, that's how it was written.
Is there a reason why 60 days is better than 45 or 45 better than 60?
No, that's just how it was submitted by Citizens Initiative, and it hasn't been changed. I'm still not seeing 60 days. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm making a note there.
Robert, it could take a little more time and effort to fill the city attorney's position.
Yeah, that's possible. I'm not saying that shouldn't be there. I'm just asking if there's a reason why it's different.
Okay. Moving on to 512 is the oath of office. This was.
Jill?
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt. In G of the section we were just going over, if we want to stick in line with, the proper terms, we have himself or herself, and maybe we want to change that in the section G, vacancy, what constitutes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that one? The oath of office, there has been some legal contention about the oath of office. I actually think that this one is okay as written. The one that's contained in the California Constitution has been challenged successfully. But we decided, or what I'm going to recommend anyway, is that it just be taken out altogether so that we don't, if that happens again in the future, we're not tied to it. We can change the specific wording of the oath of office as necessary without having to go back out to the electorate each time. 602 C and D are the changes you just approved tonight. 603 on meetings open to public. The except as authorized by California law refers to the exceptions that are contained in the Brown Act that allows certain meetings that are not open. The entire voting membership refers to or is intended to clarify that ex officio members are not voting members and are not a part of that majority to make up a vote. 609 on the Civil Service Commission. The last paragraph is being deleted just because it was duplicative. And then going on to Article 9 on the elections, this is the primary place where we've made the change from general to primary and or adding in general elections. So we now have primary and general versus general and special. Excuse me?
What section are we on?
900.
Article 9, section 900 and 900.5.
Roll down to it. Okay.
And then section 902 is the change that you've previously approved regarding deleting that exception for council members and mayor when it comes to holding mail-in elections. And I think that concludes the proposed revisions. I will tell you, I'm still getting information or requests in from staff, so there may be some additional, but I'm not aware of any other substantive changes that we would be recommending. And these are slated to go to council, all of these on July 14th. And that would include the proposed amendments from the commission, both the ones approved in January as well as the one approved tonight. So there are 3 remaining city council meetings to be held between now and the beginning of August. July 14th, July 28th, and then August 4th. And then August 4th would be the last date of the council meeting by which we could approve the amendments to get on the ballot and get them to the county in time. So that's why we're going with the 14th and hoping that we can get in well ahead of that deadline with any changes they may have. And that's the end of my presentation.
Very good. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow any public submittals of input, comments on this particular item. Okay, the voting period for this item is now closed. Did we receive any comments?
There were no comments.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions by the commissioner? Okay, I'm looking for a motion here to accept. Anyone?
I move that we accept the revisions as proposed, subject to the modifications suggested by the commission.
Thank you, Jan. Seconds?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, could we please request by roll call everyone's vote on this, Marissa?
Sure. I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Commissioner Schofield.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you remember all that Marco Rubio water thing? I've always wanted to do that. Next item on our agenda, number 5, selection of a new chair. Wait a minute, did I jump ahead here? I sure did, excuse me. This next action item is consideration, discussion, and potential action on the draft biannual report to City Council regarding commission activities. Does the staff have a presentation? Okay.
Am I still on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Just briefly, this is the report that was presented at the last meeting with the updated last paragraph. Oh, no, not the last paragraph.
Middle of the first.
Thank you. The first paragraph under the summary, where I've added in the fact that the commission conducted the survey and presented those results to City Council in July of 2019. And directed the commission to bring back the potential ballot measures, as you can see there. So that was the revision I made in response to the commission's comments.
Perfect. No comments? Okay, I'm gonna now take another 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item before the commission. Okay, commenting period for this item is now closed. Did we receive any comments? So, no. Do the commissioners have any further comments or questions? Okay, can I entertain a motion to accept the report as written? Oh, come on.
I'll put a motion to accept it as is.
I'll
I'll second the motion.
Okay, very good. If we could get a roll call vote on this now, Marissa, please.
Yes. Commissioner Budding.
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
And Commissioner Schofield.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. The next item is the selection of the new chair and vice chair for 2020-2021. I don't believe there's a presentation, is there?
No, I think you all know the drill. We just need
Okay.
new comments.
Yes, I now need to call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item before we deliberate? Okay, the commenting period for this agenda item is now closed. Did we receive any comments?
No comments.
Okay, is that pretty common for all of these commission meetings so far? No comments?
I think that it has been common.
Okay. All right, time to deliberate.
Yes, that has been common.
Okay, thank you. Any motions for chair or vice chair? Jim?
I move that Tom O'Donnell be chair the next term. I think you're fair, you're organized, you respect everyone, and you have the experience.
I appreciate that. I'd be very open to letting someone else step forward if there's volunteers. I've been the chair or vice chair for probably 4 years now or more, 5.
I second that motion.
Oh, you guys.
Excuse me, before you move on that or continue with that motion, I wanted to check my records, but Commissioner O'Donnell, I thought you were terming out.
I believe I have, that's a good question. I think I have about 11 months left.
Oh, is it next? Can I just check real quick?
Sure, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah, the webpage shows next year, Tom.
This could be goodbye.
No, it shows next year.
Yeah, the webpage shows next year, Tom. Good luck.
Okay, great.
I've learned not to trust that webpage. Okay, so anyway.
Okay, thank you. I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Commissioner Budding.
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
Aye.
Commissioner Schofield.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a vice chair. Any volunteers or motions?
I nominate Commissioner Schofield to be vice chair.
Already? You'll accept if not voted in, Jim?
Well, I'd kind of like to nominate Jan to be vice chair because I don't have much experience. I've only been on it for 3 months, 4 months at this point.
You'll do fine.
Yeah, I was going to second Edgar's nomination.
Okay, Robert, I thought I saw you for a moment. Did I miss it before Jan jumped in there?
Oh, looks like Commissioner Ross just got, oh no, never mind.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
What's the, what are we voting on?
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Schofield for Vice Chair.
Oh, okay. Right, yes.
And lastly, Commissioner Schofield.
I think I'm outvoted in any event. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Very good. Okay, I take it we might want to be prepared to have a quick meet over the next couple of weeks if anything else pops up before the July 4th, or not before July, as a result of the July 14th. I see we have August 12th down here, but that's really kind of, do we want to keep that date or you think we're done? Or Jill?
Thank you, Chair O'Donnell. Yes, so the next meeting where we're presenting to the council is July 14th. The last time they could act would be August 4th. If you wanted to have something on the books, I could have Marisa poll the commissioners and see what dates would be best, or a couple of them that would be best between now and then, just in case we needed to have a special meeting.
Okay, I was just asking the probability and to ask everyone to kind of keep an eye on their email. I don't know that we need to go any further than that just now. But the second part of my question is, bearing we don't get together, do we need something? Is August 12th, do we have something to do, or do we want to push off a couple months?
Well, that kind of goes into my next item under my comments, if we're ready to go there.
Okay, please, let's do that.
Which is the status of the Redistricting Commission applications. So those applications are due July 31st. The timeline, for those of you who are on the commission the last go around for this, the timeline is being altered because a couple of things. The March election, or the June election, is now in March. So that moves up the deadline for filing nomination papers to run for office. So we want those candidates to have as much time as we can allow to decide, or to learn which district they're in and decide whether to run. In addition, due to COVID-19 and the shutdowns that we've all experienced, the census data is delayed. And so I think normally it would come out in January, February. So that has been pushed back. I have the date here. I think yeah.
Jill, this is Carrie. I have the dates right here if you want me to jump in.
Sure.
The counts are typically delivered to states by April 1st, and the revised schedule now has them going out by July 31st of 2021.
And then the filing deadline, correct, Carrie, is November of 2021? Or the initial?
Early December. Yes.
So we're going to have a condensed time frame. So we wanted to get the applications in, get the commission seated, and get as much work as done as we can in advance of the census information coming out. So knowing that the deadline is July 31st, the Charter Review Commission could potentially start acting on reviewing those applications at its August meeting. And your role, as you may recall, is to look at the applications received, verify the information, and then to select 10 from the total submission. And then of those 10 that you select, 4 of them are randomly chosen and seated on the Districting Commission. And then those 4 choose 3 more to round out the commission based on all the demographics information that is contained in the charter. So that's the process, and that's kind of the timeline right now. So we could keep that August meeting on, and then just decide based on what we get in. We may, Carrie could jump in again if appropriate, if I'm misstating it, but if we need to extend it, because I think we're still looking for additional applications at this point.
Yes, that's correct. So far, we've received 6 applications. We are increasing our advertising. So if you're on social media or you receive the city's newsletter, you've likely seen solicitations for additional applications. So if we don't have enough applications by that July 31st deadline, then we will be extending it.
Okay, so August 12th it is for now, unless no further notice. That's also the middle, I think, of the Perseid meteorite shower, so keep your eyes up north. Any other comments from staff or commission members? Robert?
Yes, I have a question for Jill for the replacements for the vacancies for the CRC. What's the status on that?
That deadline for submission is also July 31st, and I believe we have received some applications for that.
For the vacancies?
Correct.
Okay.
Edgar?
Two vacancies, both Commissioner Ross and Chair Felber will be terming out.
Yeah, I have a further question on that. The process for the districting can be fairly long, and if there's a chance that someone will be appointed to my spot where I can't finish that process, I'd like to know about that before I start the process. Is that possible? I don't want to start the process, go halfway or 3/4 of the way through, and then come in and replace me at the end, since it is a reasonable amount of work to go through that process.
Right, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more offline, Robert. I know you're in the holdover, kind of that holdover provision now, so there's nothing requiring you to continue, but we can talk about it once I know more about where the application process is and what the timing might be.
Okay, Edgar, please.
There is actually a typo on the website, the city website. It says that the deadline to submit applications for the Charter Review Commission is today. So it says July 1st. So I don't know if that's, should it be the 31st, not the 1st, but it's on the website, and it's in red and with an asterisk.
Carrie, did I misspeak there? Is it the 1st?
I'm not sure.
Yes, I apologize. I didn't catch that. It is the 1st.
So I guess it's closed
Today.
then. Whatever applications we received, then the filing period's closed, right?
Yes, this is Carrie Bigelow, the city clerk. That's typically correct. And I don't know the status of all the applications that have come in. It's possible if we haven't received enough applications that we would reopen the application period, which we would know in the next day or two.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, without further ado, I have 7:24 p.m. We'll call the adjournment of this meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.